قواكم الله يعطيكم العافية. عدنا من جديد لنستكمل فعاليات اليوم من ضمن المؤتمر الثاني الاتحاد العام لطلبة الكويت في كندا. اليوم عندنا في هذه الفقرة برزنتيشن راح يقدم من قبل شباب موجودين، عيسى الحبيب وياسمين مزعل، مجهزين لنا شيء حلو. في البداية راح نبدي مع عيسى. تفضل معنا هني.
السلام عليكم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Do you mind if I speak in English? No? Okay. Yeah, so this presentation is going to be in English. My topic today, I'm here to talk about volunteer travel. I don't know if I can talk. Okay, hello? Yeah. Okay. I think I'm fine. So volunteer travel, I'm here to talk about volunteer travel. I've had experiences with that, and therefore I am here to share my experiences with all of you guys and why I think it's very important. So, do I have a clicker? I'm supposed to have a clicker. Oh. Okay. So, who am I? My name is عيسى الحبيب. I'm 21 years old. I was born and raised in the United Arab Emirates, Sharjah. I was not born and raised in Kuwait. Both of my parents are from Kuwait. My dad moved to to the UAE almost 30 years ago. So I lived all my life in Sharjah. I visited Kuwait almost every summer holiday. But I was in a school that had no Kuwaitis at all. I was the only Kuwaiti that I knew at school. So that was a challenge, but at the same time, it was a way for me to explore other opportunities that other people in Kuwait didn't have. And that is an English school, just living abroad and having to visit family and so forth and so forth. So yeah, basically that's who I am. Okay, and I want to share with you something that I have, which is a passion for filmmaking. That's me. I was around 14 or 13 years old there. I've always loved filmmaking. I've always loved holding a camera and shooting something. I think that was sparked by my dad mostly. He gave me a camera when I was really young, and I just loved it ever since. You can see me here in school just shooting everything. And that I didn't know at the time that this would be a huge part of me later in the future. I was told by even my parents or my friends that filmmaking is not something you should take seriously. It's just a hobby. You're gonna live your life doing something like becoming a doctor or something like that. Filmmaking is just for fun. You shouldn't take it seriously because you're never gonna get anywhere with it. And at the time, that's how art in general was considered, or it wasn't taken seriously. And I believe now it's different. I believe artists are taken more seriously now in a culture, and in fact they're looked up upon, and they consider them the new innovators, the new creators, because they come up with ideas. And even though I'm pursuing medicine right now, I respect art so much, and it's a huge part of me. I love filmmaking. I love making videos. And how did I begin with filmmaking? I started making really stupid videos when I was a kid, just for fun. I recorded my friends and all these things. I'm going to share with you 3 videos maybe no one has seen in a very long time. I was 14 when I made these videos, so don't laugh. You can laugh, but it's really terrible. So these videos were made in 2009. Can you play the first one? So yeah, I loved trying visual effects. I saw all these things in movies, and I just wanted to have fun. I'm like, okay, I see them in movies. I want to do them myself. And I looked up online a website called Video Copilot, and I went crazy. This was me when I was 14. I was watching tutorials every day just to get that effect correct. And let's show the other video. This is Harry Potter influenced. So yeah, this is from Harry Potter. I don't know if you can tell that, I don't know what they call those things, but I saw that on Harry Potter. I'm like, I want to do this. And I went home and I researched it, and eventually I made that effect. And the last one is before, now Snapchat has filters, right? I did filters before Snapchat had filters. Watch this. Yeah. So yeah, that's me, really young and very foolish. I didn't know anything at the time. Okay, go back to presentation, please. Yeah, so that's how I started. I started making really simple, fun videos because I was interested in it, and my friends thought it was cool, and I just wanted to show off that skill because none of my friends knew how to do it, and because I spent the time researching and watching videos and learning how to do it. So yeah, that's how I started. And then my love for travel has been with me ever since I was a kid. My dad took me traveling to Europe and to Australia when I was a kid, and I just always loved the idea of going to a new place, someplace I've never been to. Just that whole experience, like I was excited all the time when I was like traveling. I never wanted to be in one place, and I believe I was never in one place anyways. I had to move from Kuwait to UAE all the time. I was always traveling all my life. So it's something that I love. And that also played a part with filmmaking, and I'll explain how that connected later. But yeah, so love for travel. And that's me, really excited about traveling somewhere. I don't know where, but... so yeah, high school. High school was a turning point in my life. It was a huge turning point in my life. Before high school, I was a very hyper kid, very loud. All the teachers didn't like that I was in their class because I would be yelling all the time and speaking too loud. I was very hyper. But then once I reached high school, I don't know what happened, but I decided to take my studies seriously and, okay, I need to do something in my life. I want to end up in a good university and maybe travel abroad. I always thought, you know, I might get the chance to go to a university like somewhere in America or somewhere. I didn't even think about it. I didn't even know what Canada was at that time. But yeah, just the idea of studying abroad was attractive. So I worked hard. I did well in my studies. And I also took up positions of responsibility, which was a huge part of my my high school life. I was the head boy, which is the equivalent of a president in high school. So I spoke every day in the morning to students, even though they were sleepy, and I had to entertain them. You know, I loved performing. I always loved performing. And I used that energy instead of wasting it on just being loud in class. I used it on taking up leadership roles, speaking at graduation, doing all sorts of fun things like a drama and debate. I started the first film club in my school as well. I did a spelling bee. You know, I did all these things just because I had so much energy and I just wanted to release it. And that also created the character that you see now, because all these things obviously when I look back now, I go like, okay, all this has shaped my my character. But I didn't know at the time. I just thought, okay, I had energy, I want to release it. And that's when I got really good grades at the end of high school. I decided, you know, I chose the academic path of pursuing medicine because I loved biology. I did really well in biology. I did really well in school in general. And I thought it was a good security, I just got attracted to the idea of becoming a doctor. I didn't know why at the time. I just really found it like, okay, if I'm gonna become a doctor, that's a big deal, and I'll be respected. It's amazing, and I think I can do it. So why not, right? Even though like this filmmaking, like I said, the culture, it's like the whole filmmaking, the passion in me was suppressed. Like I even stopped making videos at the time in high school because I paid attention only to school. And I put that aside because I'm like, okay, it's never gonna take me anywhere. No one's gonna take me seriously if I do that. So I chose medicine and I went for it. And I applied and I went to Canada, and this is my first day in Canada right there. Yeah, I was happy. I was in a new place. Obviously I got accepted, and I didn't know what I was gonna expect. I was really scared. My mom came with me. She helped me a lot. I'm a mommy's boy. She helped me with everything. But yeah, basically just the whole first few years, I've had lots of struggles, but Canada has played a huge part of my life because before I came to Canada, I wasn't the same person I am today. I changed completely when I came here, and the reason being is because I discovered my passion again. And not just the passion of filmmaking, and because you're wondering, I'm talking about volunteering. I never mentioned volunteering yet. I'll mention it now, but it just made me realize who I am better, and that's why I respect, or I like Canada so much because of that. And that's how I got introduced to volunteering. To be honest with you, I never took volunteering as something that I would do. I didn't even think like I saw the people who did volunteering, and I'm like, okay, these are great people. They're very positive people. They're doing something great with their lives. But I just didn't think it was for me. And the only time that I actually tried volunteering was I was walking through the cafeteria, and this man was handing out these brochures, and it said travel abroad, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, and then something volunteer, but I didn't even pay attention to that. I'm like, oh, I can travel. Yeah, oh, Costa Rica, I love traveling, let's do this. And at the same time, that was the time when I started picking up a camera again. I'm like, okay, I can go travel, I can film this, I can take cool pictures, it's gonna be cool. And that's why I attract, like, I'm like, okay, I can do this. I signed up to go to Costa Rica, and I did. But little did I know that I thought I was just gonna go there and have fun and everything, but then something completely different happened. I went to Costa Rica, and I lived with a family, like a family of 5 people. There were 3 kids and a mother and a father. And the house, the size of literally this stage. No, like a bit bigger, but it was so small, and we were all living in the same house. And it was, I didn't know what I was, at first, the first few days, it was really hot. There were so many mosquitoes. I'm like, what did I just get myself into? This is the worst thing ever. But as days went by, and the kids, they're there, I met them, and then we worked on the project, which was mixing cement in the school and helping all these kids. I'm like, wow, this is amazing, because we were living on an island, we were an isolated island, and the people on the island were so nice. They were the nicest people I've ever met, and they only, like the family even that I was living with only spoke Spanish. They didn't even understand English, and my roommate was learning Spanish at the time, so he taught me Spanish, and I had to explain, okay, I want to go to the toilet, so, and the baño is like the toilet in Spanish for some reason, and camisa, and like there's so much Arabic and Spanish, and I found that out later. So I learned basic Spanish just to communicate with the family that I was living with. And the mother in the household actually cooked for me 3 meals a day, and all these things. Like I didn't really realize what I was getting myself into. But as time went by I spent 2 weeks in Costa Rica, and the things I got to experience there just was so enriching, and I learned so much that I'm like, you know, I've been traveling all my life. I've been going to all these places. But never did I expect, like, traveling to a place like this would be so much better, would be like 10 times better. Because you're not only learning, but you're giving back to the community, and the people in the island would respect you so much. They'd be so happy, oh my God, they're helping us, they're giving back to the community. So, and they look at you and they smile, and just that just touched me so much, and I'm like, okay, I have to do this again, I have to travel again. And that is why, this is a picture I took in Costa Rica, and I'll explain now. So I took this picture in Costa Rica, and there was a competition, a CBIE competition for a photo contest. I applied with this picture, and I ended up winning. So yeah, I won the contest, and this was like my first, I'm like, wow, I took a picture, and I won, and I got the most votes. People really liked this picture, and I even got in the news. This was my first time ever in the news. Like, they wrote an article about me, and this is all, like, I owe this to all my friends here who, or especially like Kuwait, because they saw that I went there, and they supported me so much, and they wanted news coverage. They wanted to tell everyone that I went and did this, and that's my parents were so proud of this, obviously. But and I'm like, okay, wow, I can get these achievements too. Like I'll get noticed. People will think I'm very cool, and this is really nice. And so I'm like, I want to travel again, But obviously, like now, I don't believe in that now, and I'll explain later. But this is also, I did another volunteer opportunity. It was with UNICEF at the university, just a club that I joined, and I worked with them a couple of times. Really nice club, just because I wanted to volunteer more. I wanted to experience more volunteering, because when I was in Costa Rica, it exposed me to volunteering in a way that I didn't know it was possible. So I just wanted to do more, and I did UNICEF. I worked with UNICEF, and then I eventually traveled to Africa with international student volunteers. This was last summer in 2015, and this was literally the best trip of my life. I spent a month in Africa, and just insane. We were volunteering for 2 weeks in an isolated location, bunk beds, toilets without flushing, so many like extreme conditions, but the payback was so like rewarding, because it was an enriching experience. We learned so much, and it taught me something. And this was also the first time I taught kids at a school. Just being with kids and teaching them English and about the environment and all that stuff is just amazing. Like I love doing that. I'm like, I want to do this forever. And The people I met there were amazing, and just Africa is amazing in general. I recommend everyone to travel to Africa. And I also made a challenge, because I remember, like, I make videos and I do all these things. I'm like, okay, I'm going to Africa. I need to do something about the whole video passion that I have. And I decided to challenge myself and make a single video every day of my trip when I was in Africa. No matter what happens, I have to post a video every day. And I literally made a 15-second Instagram video every day, and I posted it. And the things that I had to go through in order to post it, because the service was so bad in Africa, everyone would be asleep. I would be the only one awake in the camp, and I'd be editing at night. And then I'd go outside and wait in the cold, because it was winter at that time. And like 30 minutes just for the video to upload because of the service. Like, I put myself through that because I only challenged myself. I have to do this. And people didn't realize that how much effort I put into those videos. But at the end of the month, I had 27 videos that I made. I'm like, wow, you know, I developed my skills in filmmaking now. I'm better at filmmaking. I learned more in terms of that. And I also got to travel and experience all these things. So I took care of my passion, and at the same time, I was experiencing other things. And also, something I learned in Africa was about conservation and about the importance of taking care of our environment, about global warming, about climate change, which things I didn't even care about in high school. Things that are so important to me now. I want to be able to help the environment, because when we went there, they taught us the difference between tourism and travel. You know, you go to tourism, you stay in 5-star hotels, you do all these things. It's not the same thing as traveling. Because traveling it's an enriching experience in that you learn, and also you visit like places that people have not been to before, and it's like you interact with the locals directly instead of going on tour guides and all these things. So I'm like, this is the best way to travel. I never want to go tourism again. I want to travel like this all the time, go to places no one has been to, and just I started caring about all these things that I didn't think I would care about, and all because of like these trips that I did. And eventually, ISV noticed me for my work in UNICEF and Costa Rica, and I won an award for that. I was obviously really happy. I was the first Arab to receive the award, first Kuwaiti, obviously. So it was a really big deal for me, that award. But you know, awards, achievements, all these things, why are they important? You may ask. Like, why should I be proud of this award? What's so important about winning a photo and another photo and a video contest? Why are these things important? What's the point of all of this? Why should we be proud of our small achievements? Why should we care about winning a photo contest or anything? Well, I call it the bed effect. Let me explain. Let's imagine Abdulaziz right there, who's not paying attention, but let's imagine he has an essay tomorrow, a 10-page essay due tomorrow, and he wakes up and he procrastinated. He didn't do anything about it. And he wakes up and he's like, okay, I have to write a 10-page essay. And he gets overwhelmed, he's lazy, he can't do anything. Oh, how am I gonna finish a 10-page essay in one day? So he decides later to wake up, and he finishes his bed. He tidies up his bed. Wow, I just finished my bed. Okay, now I can go brush my teeth. He brushes his teeth. Okay, I did my bed, I brushed my teeth. I achieved 2 things today. Wow, that's giving me momentum, that's giving me a push. So I can go to my desk now. Okay, then now I can open my paper. I've done all these things. I've achieved all these little things that's leading. And then he eventually writes a page, and a second page, and a third page, and he finishes the paper because these small achievements gave him momentum. It pushed him. It allowed him to achieve better things. It allowed him to achieve his ultimate goal. And that's what I believe about small achievements. That's why you should be proud if you achieve a small thing and people look at it and go like, okay, why are you so happy about getting the best person on whatever? Tell them I should be proud. I deserve to be proud. I have the right to be proud because this small achievement will allow me to grow myself and go on to better and greater achievements. And that's why the bed, like, it all comes down to finishing your bed in the morning, and then it all goes from there. And then I volunteered again in Cambodia. I went to Cambodia with another organization, Reach Out Volunteers. This was the most challenging trip I've ever done in my life. We were living on an island. It was really hot. There was a lot of mosquitoes. I got bit by mosquitoes all the time. The food was terrible. I barely ate there. As you can see, I'm like really skinny in that picture too. There was no toilets. Like, we had to take showers with buckets because they had limited water. But the thing about this trip is that this trip was the most impactful to me because we were giving back straight. We were working on like water catchments so that, because they didn't have rain at the time, and when rain came, the water would be collected. So we built these water catchments. They would collect the water and then use it for drinking, washing. So we were directly like giving back to the community. And we were also teaching kids. These kids didn't even speak English. The kids in Africa, they knew English. These kids didn't know English at all. So I was like telling them 1, 2, 3, A, B, C. They knew nothing. And that's why it was amazing because like, I'll go back to that later. But that's why it was amazing because I was giving back, like it was very impactful and it was immediate. And so Cambodia was amazing. So why put myself through all of this troubles? Why go to that really terrible like conditions? What's the point of all of that? Well, first of all, I'm representing Kuwait. When I went to Costa Rica, I held up the Kuwait flag. I took a picture with it. When I went to Africa, I took a picture with the Kuwait flag. I'm representing my country because I'm a Kuwaiti citizen. No, like, it's as important to me as anything else is to represent my country in a positive way. I'm going there as an ambassador, you can say, or whatever, for my country. And by giving back to these people who, because I consider volunteering not as a place where you, or a thing you just do for a certain group of people. You know, I should only volunteer for Muslims. I should only volunteer and give back to Syrians. And I should only do it. Volunteer is humanity. It's about humanity. It's about caring for everyone and for the environment, animals, everything. That's what volunteer is about. And that's what you should do, like, and that's why I did all this. This is, I actually built, well, you'll see a video later that will explain. But yeah, I represented Kuwait, and also, I love to tell a story. Like, I use the passion for filmmaking to tell a story. So I use social media and Twitter, Instagram, whatever, to create these videos and show people the truth about volunteering and encourage them to do it because it's amazing. And just want to spread that message or that culture of volunteering. And it's amazing when, like, because of the whole Instagram and Twitter thing, someone comes up to me and tells me, oh, you know, I saw your video and now I want to go volunteer. That to me is like, that I achieved my goal. Like, someone wants to volunteer because of what I did. And that's all that matters at the end of the day, is spreading that message, spreading that positive, trying to impact people in a positive way and spreading that. And I also love to explore and adventure. That's why I do all these things. And most importantly is whatever you do in life, if you have a passion for drawing, if you have a passion for anything, you should always learn to make it, use it in a way to add value, because that's all that matters at the end of the day. If you have a really, like, it can be anything, the passion can be anything, as long as you make it add value. By value, I mean like it contributes to society or helps people. Like, if you're helping people by using the passion that you have, that's it. That's the goal that you should have. Because we're here as guests. We're here temporarily. We're going to leave soon, someday. We're just here to live life in a temporary manner, and we should live it in a way to impact people's lives and leave a positive trace. And that's what I strongly believe in now. And that's why I travel and I do all these things. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you. And yeah. Thank you. I'm going to end this speech by showing you a 3-minute video. I haven't shown this video to anyone. It's very exclusive to this conference. So yeah, enjoy. I hope you enjoy. Thank you.
أنا ما أدري إيش أقول عليك. أنا الشعر ينبي كله كش. اللي قاعد تسوي شيء وايد حلو. مو وايد حلو، لا شيء رائع بمعنى الكلمة. شخص بعمرك قاعد يسوي أداء لجنة، هيئة، مركز عدل. يعني أتوقع تجربة يمكن شفناها. لو واحد قايل لي القصة يمكن قلت لا قاعد يبالغ، بس ممتاز. ياسمين حياك الله.
السلام عليكم. أولاً يعطيكم ألف عافية، ما شاء الله يعني تجمع وايد حلو. وأول شيء بعتذر، صار لي فترة طويلة عايشة بكندا، فأفضل إني أتكلم بالإنجليزي عشان ما أقطع عليكم وايد بدليات. وإن شاء الله أول presentation راح نرد بالعربي. So I apologize. First of all, I was blown away by your presentation, Asa. MashaAllah, it's amazing. I was blown away for two reasons. Number one, the work that you've done to touch people's lives. And two, it's pretty much 95% of my presentation, so I don't know what I'm gonna say. No, it's okay. No, it's not nearly as amazing, but I'll try to pick up the pieces. I'll try to, tell you about volunteering through my perspective, and inshallah, it will just make it a more holistic experience for everyone. So I'll start off by saying that my first experience with Nukes was actually 2 years ago. I came to the first conference in Toronto, and yes, I'm calling that the first conference because I attended it. And it's actually where I got to meet a lot of amazing people here. Actually, I'm friends with a lot of people on Instagram here, which is great. And so some of you know a little bit about myself, but for the sake of others, I'll give you just a brief introduction. I'm doing my PhD in McMaster University, and I'm currently in my second year in the Child Health and Exercise Medicine program. Basically, very briefly, my research focuses on the influence of exercise on the interaction of muscle and bone at a cellular level, particularly in children. So that's it for the research side. On this side, I love drawing, I love writing, and I love to be involved in my community, no matter where it is. I'm very involved in the city that I live in, which is in St. Catharines, which actually reminds me, I live by the Niagara Falls, and this is during my favorite season, winter. And I've been here for 14 years, so I think maybe that's what, living here for a long time does to you. You probably end up loving winter. But yeah, so I'm from there, and the things that I've done aside from school is, I like to be involved in both Canadian and Muslim associations. So I've been vice president of the Muslim Association in my previous university at Brock University. I am a writer for a Muslim Canadian publishing house. I've also worked in the Office of Human Rights and Equity Services at Brock University for 2 years, where I facilitated talks for both students and faculty about diversity and diversity training. And currently, I'm part of two proposals, two grants that I applied for at McMaster. One is called Industry Link, where we try to connect graduate students with companies so that they can build a networking experience. And the other one is the Gallery of Graduate Arts, where I try to get graduate students in sciences to connect with their artistic hobbies by presenting their artwork. So I too have a strong passion for art as well. Now, that's enough about me. What I really wanted to emphasize really was volunteerism, and particularly through the sense of communication. And that's why I named the topic Going the Distance, Education and Communication. So obviously the education part, all of you are covering. Kuwait, mashallah, does a fantastic job in sending so many students abroad to cover pretty much all the elements in universities here. We have students who are in medicine, engineering, and software engineering, and so whatnot. And I'm just going to briefly go over these to really go to the meat of my conversation, but just very briefly, I want to give you a good idea of how much Kuwait invests in you. These are, I apologize if your university is not here, but we're pretty much dispersed throughout all of these places. Like, I've met Kuwaiti students in all of these places, in all these universities, and this is just to put it in perspective that Kuwait really believes in you. You're being sent to all these different universities to invest in your education. And what I really want to touch base on is the experience from a different perspective, and that's the volunteerism experience. So the people that you work with here are very, very essential to your experience here. Don't take me wrong, the curriculum in Canada is unbeatable. Canadian education is known to basically be a leading source of education in the world, but you need to look at it this way. You're not just here for the education aspect. You're here for many other things as well. And that really is covered by your interaction and your communication with others. Because really, if it wasn't for this environment that you're in, you're just pursuing, another engineering program elsewhere around the world. You're going to go back with, just like all other students who are studying abroad, with a very fancy degree. But you also need to take advantage of the other things that you have here, which is the opportunity to communicate with others. And what do I mean by others? Like people who are, your friends, your classmates, professors, supervisors, your fellows if you're already doctors, your neighbors, and your community. I put a star by community because I consider it to be very important, and I'll touch base on it at the very end. And so the best way, as Isa mentioned in his presentation, the best way really to get a good sense of people and working with others is through volunteerism. Being able to serve your time in whether it's like a health-oriented volunteer opportunity, so like volunteering in a hospital or volunteering in a senior's home, or even if it's a matter of volunteering using a talent that you have. If you love photography, you go and you take photos for it in a certain place. Being able to take your time to serve others is strongly essential. And right now I have a confession to make. When I planned out this presentation, I was going to make it really simple. But after hearing the talks by the honorable guest this morning, I realized that, volunteerism is something that's really appreciated regardless within this group of people. So I feel like touching base on the simple things isn't going to give it enough justice. You already know that volunteerism is essential to humanity. The Ministry of Youth Affairs, just by seeing that commercial initially, you know that taking time in Kuwait to serve your country and to deal with, the government and politics to represent youth is essential, especially in this day and age. So I don't really want to focus a lot on what is volunteering and why that's helpful. Honestly, I was going to talk about that, but I'm going to scratch that. So I'm going to kind of go over the next couple of slides really quickly, only for that reason, and inshallah, I'll be able to touch base on what I really want to talk to you guys about at the end. So please bear with me with the next couple of slides. So a few benefits of volunteering, and these are more like individualistic benefits. Obviously, there are so many, but I just want to touch base on a few that I consider quite important. The first one is social skills, okay? So given that we're students, social skills are quite important, regardless of whether you want to have it for your recreational life or for your work life or for your school life. The truth of the matter is, studying is phenomenally fantastic. It gets you the grades that you want, but it's the people that give you those social skills. And we know in this day and age that from interview to interview, your social skills can be the ones that break it, whether you get accepted or whether you get rejected to whatever it is that you're interested in. Another thing, problem solving. Being able to interact with others, being able to have that organic experience with, expressing your thoughts, being there to think on the spot. Volunteerism helps you with doing that. Being able to travel to countries where you actually have to teach students in really rural places and deal with so many issues, that teaches you problem solving better than any other institution can. Self-awareness. When you volunteer, you learn so much about yourself. It's crazy. When I first came here, I was planning to get into medicine. And so I started volunteering in hospitals and seniors' homes. And for some reason, I don't know, I wasn't really feeling it. Like, I loved it, but I still had a void. It wasn't until I started volunteering in labs that I was starting to enjoy it. I'm a very curious individual. I'm curious about certain experiments, why this experiment wouldn't work, why would this experiment work, what would happen if we do this. And somehow, just by being able to volunteer in a lab where all I did was grow cells, I knew where I wanted to go. So you learn so much about yourself. So it's self-awareness when you volunteer for things. Empathy. I put this one because I love cats. Empathy is so important. Empathy is being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes. And this is something that you learn through volunteerism. This day and age, we're always hearing about very, very famous entrepreneurs. And so one very famous one is Gary Vaynerchuk. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's a very, very successful entrepreneur. He's invested in so many booming companies, including Facebook, Twitter, and whatnot. And of all of his interviews, when they ask him, what are the two things that you attribute your success to? The first thing he says, which was what we just discussed, self-awareness, knowing yourself, and empathy. He finds that empathy is the reason he's been successful in everything. So imagine being able to relate to somebody right in front of you, being able to look in their perspective, that is hugely beneficial, not just to that person, but to yourself as well. So that's something, if you're lucky, you'll be able to get it through volunteering. So this is what I want to get into, I'm going back to Kuwait. Why should I volunteer in Canada? Now, the reason I'm saying this is because this is something that I have been asked a few times. You know, why should I really emphasize volunteering here if I'm going back? You know, in that first video we saw, the youth affairs commercial, you know, volunteerism, it leads to a stronger nation and a stronger sense of loyalty. And it's so true. And inshallah, and it always does that in Kuwait. But there are many other benefits as well to volunteerism. And that's really what I wanted to get into right now. You know, when you volunteer here, there are a number of reasons it's going to benefit you when you go back to Kuwait. It's going to benefit you, and it's going to benefit our country. Experience leads to expertise. Okay, so that's my first reason. You know, depending on how you treat the experience that you gain from volunteering here, it can turn into an expertise when you go back home. And we know that wherever it is you're going to work, these places, they value expertise, right? It's something that you can put on a CV. So that's something very, very tangible way. Another reason volunteering here helps you is that it equips you to deal with problems back home, right? So when you volunteer here, when you interact with people, depending on the problems that they're facing here in Canada, you know, people are the same. We have problems here that are similar to back home, and sometimes they can be different, but just by you know, gaining those problem-solving skills that you get here, you can probably deal with a lot of issues that we have home that nobody else has dealt with, you know. And it's not their fault that people don't deal with them back home, but that's what happens when you don't have a lot of diversity in thought and a lot of diversity in experience. So when you experience different thoughts and you become open-minded through volunteering here, that's, you know, what leads to that ability for you to deal with different problems. And also, I apologize, this was like the last slide that I can really think of, so you're going to be looking at the screen for a while. Another reason why you need to volunteer is because, you know, it's going back to empathy, right? Another reason how it's going to benefit you in Kuwait. So when you're going to be able to relate to people, to relate to individuals here, you'll be able to relate to individuals back home in Kuwait as well. And mashallah, Kuwait is it's a small growing country. It's so vast and so diverse in its thoughts. You know, these experiences will lead to its own fruitfulness and its own flourishing. And you know, lastly, what I wanted to say is if you volunteer here, really you're being an ambassador, just like Isa was. You're being an ambassador to yourself, and you're being an ambassador to Kuwait. Really, you're educating people. That's what you have to think about it, okay? People learn about others through action. You know, it's one thing for me to sit down and tell you, you know, I've done this, we believe in this, we believe in this. Okay, that's great. But it's another thing for others to see it. And people don't forget what they see. So that's you know, being an ambassador here is, of course, beneficial in so many ways because you want people to get a good sense of where you're coming from. You want people to get a good sense of your beliefs. You know, we're not as different as you think you are. And you want people to understand where you're coming from and what your values are. So again, that's another reason why volunteering here is going to help you when you go back. And lastly, you know, going back to the idea of being an ambassador, you're being an ambassador to your faith. You know, as a Muslim, you know, you have to give back. It's beautiful that, you know, we're all here in Canada and we're all, you know, gaining from these opportunities, but I think sometimes we forget that we also have to give back to this country who's given us so much, you know, and you can do that through volunteerism. You know, being able to, even if you, you know, organize like a homeless shelter of some sort, or write for a paper, or, you know, join a club, just leaving your mark here. People are not asking for it. People are not expecting anything for you, but trust me, it's going to feel great on your end. And so that can be your way of giving back to this country. And again, it all goes back to you. Like, yes, you'll be giving back to Canada, but the experience will be going back to you as well, and you'll take it back with you home. And so, yeah, I think that's pretty much what I wanted to say. I think, yeah, I lied. That was actually the last slide. So it all ties down to experience. And I really hope that, you know, my really short talk doesn't come across as being critical in any way. Honestly, if anything, it comes off of passion. You know, I'm so passionate about volunteering, and I'm so passionate about going back home and making a difference. And I believe that, you know, these differences only happen when we join together and we work together so that these things resonate within Kuwait. So, watching people like Isa, going about his way to do these things. And there are other people as well. He's not here right now, but I don't know if you guys know Ahmed Araifan. He's from Toronto. And mashallah, I met him, 2 years ago too. And he's a quiet guy, but that guy, mashallah, he's done so much. He's part of a association in Ryerson University called Majlis Khaliji. And what they do is, these Khaliji students, they get together, every Saturday, and they talk about things that matter. They talk about, mental awareness, and they talk about feminism, and they talk about knowledge translation, and then they talk about recreational stuff too. Like, they have like really, really great trips. But that's what I mean. Like, they get together to talk about things that stimulate their minds, and they also sometimes, I believe, they've done a few things where they volunteered. So I mean, that's another example that I can think of. But there's so many of you out there I know that have these tricks up your sleeve. I think it's just a matter of taking them seriously and leaving your mark here. And inshallah, by doing that, at the end of your experience in Canada, you'll feel that not only have you been able to gain an invaluable education that you won't gain somewhere else, but you'll be able to gain skills that will serve you a very long way and ultimately serve Kuwait a very, very long way. And thank you. Jazakumullah khair.
شكرا لك ياسمين، يعطيك العافيه، قواك الله، عرض جيد، وشكرا لكم اثريتوا فعالياتنا اليوم ياسمين وعيسى اليوم.